Here now with more reaction, Fox News contributor Sara Carter, Florida Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, your reaction to the U.S. Supreme Court decision to keep Title 42 in place. Is it going to make any difference, really?
Well, first of all, it's a good decision to have because it'll frankly keep an avalanche of people seeking asylum illegally, mind you. They're seeking asylum at an illegal point of entry, which is actually against federal law. They're not allowed to do that, but Joe Biden is doing it anyway. So it's a reprieve on these border towns and border states and all the resources that need to be done. But the real problem is not Title 42. The real problem is Joe Biden reversed course after he was inaugurated because he didn't want to manage the border the way Donald Trump had managed the border, i.e., he didn't want to manage it successfully. He wanted a wide open southern border to allow migrants and illegal immigrants to come into the United States ad nauseum. This is the plan from the White House. So I'm glad that the Supreme Court is holding up Title 42 for now while they hear the full case. But what the Supreme Court needs to understand is that Joe Biden is not following immigration law on purpose because he and the Democrats want a wide open border here in the United States.
Sara, you've spent more time at the border than anybody I know of. Your intrepid work has really been admirable. And, you know, you're kind of the Lone Ranger down there for the last couple of years. You know, NBC, ABC, CBS, that was toxic. We don't go down there. We're BFF with Joe, and so we can't cover his biggest crisis. Now, all of a sudden, because of Title 42, they decide, well, let's go take a look-see. And they're shocked that there's gambling going on down here and a whole lot more. You got to laugh at these knuckleheads, right?
Well, Greg, yeah, you're right. Look, I've been covering the border actually for almost 20 years. I started on the border in the early 2000s. I've never seen it quite like this. This is unheard of, what we're seeing, and we were reporting on it. You're right, Greg. I was down at the border. I was saying, hey, look at what's going on. We have other colleagues like Bill Maloogian and others from Fox News that are down there also showing what's going on at the border. And when you think about it, this is an open sieve that is not only harming the American people, the national security of our nation, Greg, when we see an influx not only of migrants that aren't being vetted, there are so many young people being trafficked into the United States by these cartels. And I was just in Mexico City. I visited 2 shelters where children had been rescued from human traffickers. Some as young as 6 years old were being trafficked by these predators for unimaginable things. I don't even want to talk about them on television with you right now because it's horrific. You can't even imagine what they've been through. And here we have a government that leaves the border wide open, and the only people benefiting from this, other than them, I think, because there has to be a reason why the Biden administration is not abiding by the law or allowing our federal law enforcement to abide by the law, but are the human traffickers and the drug cartels in Mexico. Who is going to stand up to them? Who is going to protect our children from the fentanyl? And who is going to protect the children and the people being trafficked into our country? This is no longer just numbers. This is about human beings, people that are literally losing their lives.
Well, and I'm glad
I think that's what's so frustrating.
I'm so very glad, Sara, that you brought up the fentanyl, because I want to ask you about that, Congressman Donalds. According to the CDC, 100,000 overdose, fentanyl, synthetic drug deaths, all of it coming from the border and these cartels. So 100,000 a year. That's 275 people per day who are being murdered by these illegal drugs coming across our southern border. And Joe Biden won't even bother to go to the border to see the crisis that his incompetence has created. What would you say to him about that?
Well, first of all, to the president, I know he doesn't care because he doesn't bother to go. It's outrageous. Americans are losing their lives. You haven't even visited the border, not once. The news media, I'm going to go back because Sarah didn't want to talk about it. I will. There are young girls who are being raped by the cartels and the coyotes in the journey to our southern border. That's happening right now. But number two, back to Joe Biden. He doesn't care about this. He wants this policy. And the news media that's down there covering it now, where were they 2 months ago during the elections? Nowhere to be found. But they're there now to cover their butts. It's a joke and it's disgusting. And Joe Biden has the authority to change it, and he won't because he's following his radical Democrat policy. Listen, this is awful for the people who are going to lose their lives. It is awful for the people who overdose and the families that have to deal with it. But for the families in America who have to deal with this problem, first and foremost, look no further than the president of the United States. He doesn't care about protecting you. He only cares about his political agenda. That's why he won't go to the border. That's why he doesn't answer questions. That's why the media won't bother asking him. And that's why in this omnibus bill that they just passed, they refused to have the money go to actually secure the border. It's ridiculous.
Congressman Donalds, thank you for being so candid. Sara Carter, as always, your outstanding reporting at the border has really been important to us. So thank you for that as well.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.